My apologies. We got to go now. Thank you so much for joining me. My first session on tax and wealth succession planning. Housekeeping, please mute yourself and please ensure that your video is off. Okay. So the purpose of the session is to bring to you some of the things that I feel that it's worth you sharing with you, particularly if you are of interest into tax and wealth succession planning. Of course, we, especially as property investors, we work daily, or for that matter, even if we're not property investors, we try by all means to create that particular wealth. With wealth, it brings some element of accountability, and that accountability can be as a result of legislations that now we wealth creators needs to report back to specific supervisors or bodies or institutions, depending on in what capacity we are referencing to. Now, when we bring everything back home, I want to touch base, get straight to the point because time has gone by. The session are meant to be about 15 minutes or so of my presentation and then take a few questions and we close. The shorter, the sweet, the better. So now what happened is that last year around December, the president of the country have signed some of the laws some of the amendments into law. When we're saying happy and celebrating our Christmas, popping the champagnes. Don't mind me from the Zoom, guys. I'm trying to also accommodate the TikTok people out there so that they don't feel left out. TikTok people also don't mind because I'm using different screens. Also, I'm interacting with the guys on Zoom. And those who are on YouTube, good afternoon. And thank you so much for joining us. Tonight, I want to have a chat with you guys around particularly the amendments that the president of the country, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, has signed last year into being a law around Trust Property Control Act. I'm mentioning that because most of you guys, one way or another, you might end up finding yourself having family trust. So such changes are actually very, very relevant to you. Of course, there are other changes within that as part of trying to fight against terrorism financing. You'll see the act that I'll reference into some of the slides. So some of the changes have been made around Companies Act, around non-profit organizations. The reason why I'm touching in the main on Trust Property Control Act, because you and I tend to, it's more closely related to us. Some of you guys might be watching, have trust already, but how does it impact you? Or for that matter, you might not have a trust, but you might have a trust tomorrow, next month, and or for that matter, you might take a special that we are running on transformations. But be mindful that there are certain responsibilities comes with having that wealth. Okay, now let's get going. So I prepared a mini presentation. One of the reasons I don't like with presentation they tend to take too much time, and we end up not actually covering things while you're thinking that you're gonna do a bit of 15 minutes presentation, but it end up being a bit too much. Okay, so TikTok, if you want to see the presentation, please jump on my YouTube. Use the link on my profile. You can quickly go to YouTube. You'll see the presentation because I'm live from YouTube also through Zoom. Okay. So the concept here is the tax and wealth succession planning update that will happen on a monthly basis if I deem it necessary that there's changes that I think you need to be aware of, like this one. On the 6th of January, National Treasury issued statement informing the public around informing the public about government gazetted changes in legislations as a result of President having assented to some of the changes into legislation. And one of the things that I need to bring is this notice. Okay, now let's look at this. And we're going to break it into layman English so that you and I try to understand. I'm not trying to make you guys experts here, but I'm trying to make sure that you are more relatable to these things, because one way or another, you are beneficiaries, you are founders of this trust. So therefore, this has got a way of having an impact. Some of you guys are already trustees. Okay, so be mindful. Okay, so there's this notice that you can go into Government Gazette, you'll probably find it. Okay, I'm done. So why was it being shown as gazetted? Is because they were making this amendment around this, bringing this act, right? So Act number 22 of whatever, you can read it. And it's around anti-money laundering and combating terrorism financing amendment act. Okay. Within this, they were trying to amend, one of them being Trust Property Control Act. You and I are familiar with Trust Property Control Act, right? And it deals with trust. And dealing with trust, it helps us and guide us on how to manage and do the trust administrations, okay? Where we're creating wealth, right? Will you agree with me? So I need to bring you to your attention the changes that came with this act, okay? So within this, what they're trying to do, what they did, they brought in a definition of accountable institution. And I'm going to show you what do we mean accountable institution. It was never there. They brought in the definition of, that's never there. Okay. And then also, they put in more responsibilities by imposing certain requirements on trustees. So there's more work. So if I become a trustee of your trust or family trust, when I start saying, guys, please pay me more, you must know that law requires me now to even go further. There's more into law by being a trustee, guys. And I think that's what we're seeing now, where we're thinking that being a trustee is going to be a profession at some point, especially with these new regulations coming into play. We are more likely going to see people becoming professional trustees, like what you're seeing with professional directors. So maybe that's another career that you guys might consider, some of you guys, if you're not worried about reading too much legislations and upholding governance, you might consider being a professional trustee, because I think in the next 5-10 years, it's going to be one of those highly demanded and highly paid professional trustees are going to be paid very well. Like what we've seen in previous years, where non-executive directors were paid very, very good fees by sitting on as board members. So just think about that. Okay. So now, by specifying matters that will disqualify a person from being appointed or continue to act as a trustee, you'll notice that some of these things that they put in here are kind of similar to being disqualified to act as a director. So if you think about it now, being a trustee and being a director is pretty much starting to be similar. I think even more being a more trustee is actually even more onerous in my view. But this actually by highlighting some of these things that will just disqualify someone as a trustee, you'll see those requirements are kind of similar to what disqualify an individual to be a director. Okay, so where am I? Okay, by clarifying that a person who was appointed outside the Republic as a trustee must be authorized by the master to act. Remember, some of you guys, you may find that you are sitting outside It might be in Malawi, Zimbabwe, you name it, or Canada, and wanting to be a trustee in South African Trust. So they clarify that because there's always been different school of thoughts. What do you need? What there, this and that. So you need to be approved of master. So this amendment put it clear to say you need to be authorized by the master to act as a trustee if you're a foreigner. Okay. So I think that's what, but what we see in practice is that the master requires one to have a domicile address and also requires them to kind of give some sort of a security to act as trustees. Okay, now, so these are some of the key changes that popped up. You can see they have to do with day-to-day of running these trusts that you guys buying properties and then stuff left and right. Okay. Now, by providing for the removal of the trustee who becomes disqualified to continue to act as a trustee, you always say, Shilipo, how do you remove someone as a trustee? Now the act is starting to guide you guys. Okay. So, so by specifying information that must be kept by the trustees, can you see? Further in responsibilities. Okay. Further responsibilities. Okay. In relation to beneficial owners. Remember, we said they brought in who is the beneficial owner. Therefore, we need to go back and then discuss who beneficial owner is so that you know what type of information you need to keep as a trustee. So too much work, guys, too much work. Okay, but it comes with responsibility, comes with being a professional trustee, comes with you making money and having to make sure that all these things are relevant. Okay. In relation to beneficial owners, in relation to trust, by requiring the master to meet, I don't know if okay, let me not say anything, but I feel like there's more added work to the master's office by maintaining that. You know, here's the thing, guys. If they're saying by requiring the master to maintain register containing information relating to the beneficial ownership trust, what is the beneficial ownerships? Right. Now, I personally feel that element, that competitive edge of privacy and confidentiality will do away if my information is being maintained by a public institution. Yeah, that is just my view. I'm not sure if will this render trust relevant. Will the trust still be relevant? That's another, I don't know, we'll see. That is just my view. I feel that this will make people more leaning towards, especially the ones with more money, will lean towards them externalization of wealth. I don't know, but I feel also maybe the change in using trust in such a way that trust might end up being more of holding entities rather than having activities inside, so that they become dormant in terms of substance, but then they still give the protection in terms of separation of ownership, so that they just hold the shares, and then so that when you get into trouble, wherever you get into trouble, or you divorce or you die, you still kind of benefit from separation of the wealth between the trust and yourself. I think this we're probably going to see direction moving towards, rather than them having more activity, because then you want to have less communication and less reporting to do with the Master of High Court. That is just me, but we'll see. Okay, so containing information relating to beneficial ownership of trust and providing for access to information regarding the beneficial ownership, and by specify certain offenses. So that is, in a nutshell, this is where I want to zoom in. But of course, we're not going to cover all these things, because if we try to cover all these things, we'll be here for the next 3 hours. I said 15 minutes, and 15 minutes is pretty much up. Okay, so this is what I want you guys to go out there, do your own research, read, because there are going to be a lot of scholars in the coming months, because it's fairly new. Most people are not even aware of these things. It's fairly new, so there'll be a lot of scholars, there'll be a lot of thinking and thoughts and discussions around these matters. Okay, maybe let's kind of dwell into that. I kind of try to pinpoint some of the things that I feel that are more relevant. So remember, we spoke about the definition that we inserted about accountable institution and beneficial owner. So what I'm going to do, let's go back. I'm going to try to go to FIC Act and then show you. Let's go here. You're going to read with me. We're going to classes, guys. Let's go to classes. You're going to read with me. Certain about accountable institution and beneficial owner. So what I'm going to do, let's go back. I'm going to try to go to FIC Act. Okay. Ignore, you see this thing of doing multiple things. Okay, so now let's look at this. Remember, we spoke about accountable institution. So this is the act. Those who did, don't be scared. Those who did, there's what you call FIC Act. Those who are into the financial planners and financial advisors normally read that. I did this when I was writing my RE5. I don't even know why I did it, but yeah, such is Shilly Boy. So now, so this is how they define accountable institution. And what is this now? I want to, there we go. Okay, I want to move this. Thank you. There we go. Now, remember we said they brought in that accountable institution that was never there in the Trust Property Control Act, if you agree with me. Okay, now, let's read this. It says accountable institution report into supervisory bodies. So let's assume that as trustees, we're already accountable institution. Who's our supervisory body? We already said the master, we're going to be reporting. So now we're already going to be required to be reporting to the master. Already we're doing that, but there's more added responsibilities, and it's even clearer and legalized so that we should be based on FIC Act. This according to this act, okay? In terms of the FIC Act, they are required to formulate and implement internal rules concerning the establishment and the verification of the identity of person whom the institution must identify. Can you see it's broad, it's general, but then we need to go back to the Trust Property Control Act to say, what are the things that we need to identify and report on? Do you see what it does? I'm sorry, guys, it feels like academics now. It feels like I'm lecturing, but you're moving from what the new Amendment Act that kicks in around the money and the money laundering that imposed, or rather included, the new definitions into Trust Property Control Act, but it refer you back to the definition as per FIC Schedule 1 of FIC Act. Then FIC Act defines what accountable. If you want the definition, you won't find this definition in the Trust Property Control Act. It will refer you back to this act. Okay? So now, then they said the information of which records must be kept. Remember I said there's certain information about the beneficial ownership and beneficial owners that you must be keeping, that you must be reporting to your supervisory bodies. Who's your supervisory bodies? Is the master of the High Court. Guys, there's nothing hectic about this thing, by the way. You shouldn't be scared. The truth of the matter is that you just need systems. It's like any other business. If you're going to create wealth, you must put systems in place and just refine these things and just report and move on with life. The wealth comes with accountability. You cannot run away from it. Wealth comes with responsibilities. That is just a reality. Otherwise, you're going to lose wealth. The manner in which and place at which such records must be kept. Remember earlier on we said they must be kept by the master, and then obviously the master is still going to tell us on how that information should be populated and things like that. Okay. The steps to be taken to determine when a transaction is reportable to ensure that the institution complies with its duties, any other matters as may be prescribed. So of course, the master can tell us how or how he wants things. But I want to show you something. What accounting institution comprise, which is accountable this, a body of, here's the thing, any other person that invests, keeps in safe custody, controls, administers trust property within the meaning of the trust. Can you see where we are here? Ignore these executors, because executors also can be functional in terms of the trust. They can be running the trust, but here's the board of, or let's rather focus from here. Any other person that invests, keeps in safe custody, controls or administer trust property within the meaning of the, which is who is that? Most likely it's us as trustees. We're empowered by the trust instruments to follow that. So that's what I wanted to show you under how these things were brought back so that you are aligned. Okay. Now let's go back to my ugly presentation. Okay, so now you know about the accountable institution, how we fit in as trustees, and what we're expected to do, obviously. Then you need to then go back to the Trust Property Control Act to say, what are we required to do as trustees? Please, guys, read. You're gonna lose wealth if you don't read. You'll work hard, and yeah, you lose all those properties that you're creating, not even in property, businesses, because the truth of the matter is that if you're going to have 100 million worth of a business, you're more likely going to have it within the trust structures and things like that. So at least try to understand, and you don't have to be expert, but be aware and have the right people around you. And you don't have to be an expert, and I think that's what we need to be clear on. Don't be an expert. Try to be aware that things like this exist, and then call people that knows. Okay. And then beneficial owner, then we're going to look at the Government Gazette, how they changed, how they defined it. I pulled the Government Gazette because the current Trust Property Control Act, as in, obviously, is not yet showing these new changes. So we'll look at that later on. So one of the things that I needed to look at is what will disqualify someone to be a trustee. Remember, now they amend Section 6 of Trust Property Control Act. So already, if someone is unrehabilitated insolvent, is huabato. So anyway, so someone who's insolvent, obviously that person can't be a trustee. Can you see what it does? Anyone who can be prohibited to be a director cannot be a trustee. Here. Because now we're dealing with this anti-money laundering and things like that. So those people who are sanctioned by UN cannot be trustees. Yeah, guys, we're in a global citizen. Yeah, we're a global country. So yeah, you see, we're even referencing things to UN and United Nations. I found it very funny. It's quite interesting, though. Anyway. So anyone who was removed from office of trust, delinquent directors, comrades like dealing with each other as you are a delinquent. But anyway, so those who have been declared to be delinquent directors cannot be trustees. There are those who are like asking me, Shilipe, can a minor be trustee? They say you can't if you are unemancipated. So normally, remember, there are those who you can be minor in terms of age, but if you have been married, I don't know if South Africa, I don't think we allow minors to get married, but if you're married, then you lose that. Remember, you lose that status of minor. So then you can still be a trustee technically. So, but if you're still under control, and which is what unemancipated means, it means like you're still under governing and control and whatever guidance of the parents. So you can't be what do you call a trustee? So these are some of the things that they inserted in the Trust Property Control Act. Okay. So, and then they also obviously then made changes to Section 88 amendments, and then it's just some of the general changes that we made. Obviously, the other one that I referred to was foreign trustee, those guys who might be foreigners who wants to be trustees in South Africa. You might want to consider that you need to be authorized by the Master of High Court, and then Master of High Court might actually require you to have some sense of security. They will prescribe on what they mean for that, and then typically they want the local address that you'll use for what do you call these things, correspondence and things like that. Okay. So let's and so that's basically dealing with that foreign trustee. So now this comes also with issues of administration. Administration basically is how do you guys going to be administering your trust on an ongoing basis. Some of you guys as trustees, you tend to outsource work. You know, this is where I differ with this new law. You know, the previous law, and you'll hear, if you read a lot on articles, guys, you'll hear that a lot of people, fiduciary practitioners, are actually fighting this act because there's a conflict. Here's the thing. Remember, by law, trustees are required to act jointly. Trustees, which means we cannot outsource our responsibilities as trustees. But this one is saying that whoever has been given the role to act on behalf of the trustee, can you see that it creates, it has that insinuations that you can, as a trustee, you can actually do that, which you're not allowed. Because remember, when I create a trust, I actually bestow everything into you as trustees to act and own and jointly and be responsible and administer and have a control and a say jointly over that particular trust property. So there's a confusion here. You will see also that when I visit the definition of beneficial owner, it includes trustee. Well, to us is that you can never be, in South Africa, you can't be a sole trustee, sole beneficiary. It's not allowed. But based on this, it means you can. So there's that. I don't know how this thing is going to roll out. But yeah, so there's a huge confliction with, others arguing that we just went through with these things so that we don't fall under that gray listing. Remember, there was this thing of gray listing in the country under gray listing and things like that, because we don't take money laundering serious and financing of terrorism. So some argue that government tried to speed up this process in such a way that we don't get listed further in those lists, gray listing and all this. I don't understand them that well, but I know that once you're at that level, it becomes very difficult to even get funding and things like that, foreign direct investments and things like that. So there's a lot that was overlooked as a result of that. But anyway, we're not there. We're not responsible for that. Yeah. So sometimes we must whisper to these leaders of ours. I wonder if they listen. Now let's then look at where you as a trustee, when you're dealing with other accountable institutions, you need to disclose also about the trust you're sitting on. So now that shows you that you also need to know who other accountable institutions are. So which, can you see that these things starting to professionalize being a trustee? It's quite a nice, it can be a nice career. Start studying governance matters and things like that and specializing in this space. in the next 5-10 years, you might end up making decent fees out of this. If you are not scared of governance and you are a clean person, you'll enjoy this space. And then record the prescribed details relating to accountable institution, which the trustees uses as agents to perform any of the trustees' functions relating to the trust property. So, yeah, so obviously then again, you must record all the details, guys, as you transact as trustees, as going to be prescribed into the Trust Property Control Act. But guys, this thing is real, by the way. I'm not thumbsucking these things. This is the act. This is the act that you and I need to adhere to. Especially if you've got a trust, you've got a family trust, you need to teach your kids. You might be sitting as a trustee of those share employee schemes. You know, remember trust is not only you as family guys, family members. Some of you guys are executives, are going to be executives in companies where you end up representing your fellow employees as a trustee. Others, you guys are trustees of your body corporates. Guys, trustees, it's a responsibility now. So just every time they say, Tsepo, we want to appoint you as a trustee, just at least be aware of your duties and your responsibilities and things like that. Don't just accept. Okay. So some of the trustees' responsibilities: establish and record beneficial ownership of the trust. That is key. That is one of the new things. Keep up to date the prescribed information. So you need to keep the information up to date. Like keep it updated. So can you see that it's not, there's going to be a lot of administrative burden now. Keep a record of prescribed information of beneficial owners, lodge, register with the Master of High Court. Pella, this is a full-time job now. It's a full-time job. So that's what I'm saying. There are guys who are going to do very well in this space in the next. But what I'm seeing myself, I'm seeing most people shying away from trust. Unfortunately, for businesses, some of our businesses are going to suffer. We're more likely going to see only the wealthiest enjoying the trust because they can afford the administrative cost. That is because these things comes at the cost. So, but I know I'm sitting with millionaires here. Most of you guys have got minimum 3 properties already. So you are in the next 5 years, you'll be multi-millionaires. So this administrative cost wouldn't be an issue for you. So I want to quickly take you to, where's that act? Don't tell me I removed the act. Let me check something. I want to take you guys back to the act. There we go. Because I want to define, I want to look at what a beneficial owner is. Let's look at this. Okay, so this is that government gazette. They inserted this definition here. In respect of the provision of trust instrument means, so even a founder is a beneficial owner. So which means that if we're required to keep records about beneficial owners, can you see that each founder's information needs to be kept? The fund of the trust, if you're a fund of the trust, the trustees are required to keep your records. Okay? So, yeah, so a natural person who directly or indirectly ultimately owns the relevant. You see, this is where we also differ as fiduciary specialists. No one owns the trust property. No one owns, guys. But anyway, it's a law. So they say natural person. So you guys will be fighting each other. So who owns it? As trustees, they're debating in the meetings. Anyway, so a natural person who directly or indirectly ultimately owns the relevant trust property. So you need to record that information. By the way, this information is going to be handed over to the Master of High Court. So this is what I'm saying, the issue of privacy and things like. By the way, this is not only for trust. There's also amendment on the companies. Companies also are required now to reveal information. Yeah, this is going to be, maybe we should look into companies changes later on, not today. But then there are changes also that came also on the Companies Act. So there's going to be, it's just getting too much. A natural person who exercises effective, you see, remember about alter ego and sham trust. You cannot be seen to have any control over a trust. So why will they say a natural person who exercises effective control of the administration of the trust arrangement that are established pursuant to a trust instrument? You can't. There's never those incidences. You're not allowed. If you've got a proper trust, you should not be seen to be having effective and exercising an effective control over trust. Shouldn't. But yeah. Hey. It's one of those. What can we do? Another one that it means each trustee of the trust, can you see, is a beneficial owner. A trustee cannot be a beneficial owner. You can't be a sole, because it conflicts with what? Where we're saying in South African law, you cannot have a sole trustee and a sole beneficiary. You can't. You can't have a trust where you are a sole beneficiary and a sole trustee. But by virtue of this, it means you can. So there's a conflict of the laws here now. Anyway, common law conflict with the act is just something else. But anyway, to comply with this law, let's respect the law. To comply with the law, you need to keep the records of each trustee of the trust. That's what the act is telling us. Okay, so this is some of the things that I wanted to bring to your attention. You can do further research. So is everyone else. We're going to do research. We're going to listen to the scholars. And we're going to we're going to be listening to interpretations of others who knows better than us, who understand these legal matters better than us, and they'll guide us on how these matters should unfold. Maybe they will see changes with time, amendments, further amendments, because I mean law can be amended. I don't know, but this is what we have now. So go further, do research, learn more, and educate yourself. And educate yourself if you are more concerned with wealth preservation. So thank you so much for joining me. I said 50 minutes, but yeah, it went to 45 minutes. I don't think we'll have questions because I need to bounce by 6:30, literally. So TikTok, thank you so much. I've got load shedding. Remember TikTok, guys, we're supposed to be coming together at 8, but today I've got load shedding at 8. So I want to see you at 8. Be well, be safe, take care of yourself. And take care of yourself. And don't forget to spread the good governance. Okay, take care of yourself. If you need help, reach out to me, send me WhatsApp. Don't call, send WhatsApp. And then let's engage further. TikTok, cheers. Good evening. And then Zoom, guys, you've got 5 minutes. Okay, let's do this. Maybe let me give you a benefit of a doubt, and let me allow guys to ask questions. Raise your hand. Don't what do you call? Yeah, don't switch off your video. But then if you can raise your hand, then I'll recognize you, and then we can deliberate. I'll take about 2-3 questions because we are pretty much out of time. I need to be off by 6:30. Okay, any question from Zoom? Are you guys sleeping? It was a lecture. No. I want to share. I want to share it. You can go and revisit it in a YouTube. Go into YouTube, you'll find the thing, the recording. No questions. Okay. The guys are feeling overwhelmed. From TikTok, any question? You're also overwhelmed on TikTok. Maybe let's check YouTube. Let's see. Let's see. You're asking, we're talking about the session today. Okay. Oh, thank you, Kerry. I see you. I see you. Thank you. Cool. Okay. Let's see. Okay, guys. If no further questions, thank you so much. And I'll see you next month. And yeah, take care of yourself. And if you need help with text, you know where to reach me. And my team is available to guide you. If you need help with your trust, my team is around to guide you. Yeah, go and create wealth. And good night.